Hello, hello. I had a request to talk about designing covers for indie books. And so I had a previous video where I showed how you can get the template from Amazon for the print book and how you can add your cover to that to download it and get it ready for print on demand. But then somebody asked, well, how did you design the cover image itself? So I am going to walk you through that today, and I want to give a few caveats first. I have no background in graphic design. I am not an artist. I'm not a cover designer. I do, however, at this time, make all of my own book covers. I have had a lot of practice at this point, and I think they look serviceably good. You can judge that for yourself and decide if you want to follow the tips that I am going to give, but they are kind of in between, I would say. They're not super polished professional ones because I don't know all the ins and outs of graphic design, but I've come a long way and they don't scream like this is just self-published garbage, as they used to. So if you can't afford to hire an artist, or if, like me, you are addicted to doing all of the pieces yourself, because I love the control I have over doing every piece of the publishing and marketing process, then you can follow along with some of these tips to, take your cover to the next level or to get yourself a cover that you're happy with. So first of all, I am in Canva. I use Canva a lot these days. I started way back using like MS Paint and ClarisWorks and things like that with photo manipulation just for fun. But I moved to a program called GIMP, which is an acronym, and it is an open source version of Photoshop. So I don't know how to use actual Photoshop. I just know how to use GIMP, but Canva now is able to do a lot of those things. So I often will make most of it in Canva and then bring it over to GIMP for some final touches a lot of the time. So for the Amazon ebook cover, I have a width of 2560 pixels by 1600 pixels. And you might need to adjust that for different platforms, and you can easily resize it if you have the Canva Pro. That is not right at all. That is backwards from what it was supposed to be. What am I thinking? 1600 on this side. Yes. Much better. That looks like an ebook. All right. So I happen to have a cover that I want to work on, and I've been working on it and I hate it, and I'm not going to show it to you because we're going to start from scratch here. I have a plan to do a collection of a few short stories that go along with my Cedar Harbor small town hockey romance series. So I want to look at doing a cover for a holiday bundle of short stories. So the first thing that I'm going to do is a little research on what kinds of covers might work well for that. I'm going to make a prediction that it's going to be very cartoony, that it's going to have not real people or stock images of people. It's going to have like images of cartoon people. We'll find out. So head over to Amazon and see what that brings up. Bundle. I mean pregnancy. Okay, I hate that, so I'm not going to imitate that. Okay, this says it's a bundle, a box set. Alright, my prediction on that is wrong. Cute, but I don't think that's quite the right style for my small town. Something along these lines might be okay. Considering it's more than one story, maybe something like these lines is a good idea. This is kind of similar to what I'm doing, except it's suspense. You can, of course, have this, mock-up of a box set, but mine is short stories, so it's not whole books like these box sets. Now that's got that small town feel to it. does that. Those are not. Okay, so I'm getting some ideas here. I do like this one. I like the image of the holiday street, and I like how readable the text is. And that's something I'm going to talk about later, is the fonts and the different effects on the fonts to make sure that they stand out and look professional. Come back over to my Canva and start just looking at different elements and putting them together, mixing them around. So let's see. Let's see how it looks if I brighten it up a little. Yeah, there's all kinds of things we can play with here. A lot of this is just going to end up being messing around with stuff, trying different things, moving things around, different fonts, different effects, different layout placements. And I just do that a ton. And usually, well, you'll probably see as I go, I'll duplicate the page and make a change, duplicate the page and make a change. So I end up with a whole bunch of different iterations that I can compare. And that one's pretty cute. And some of the effects you can do that are in Canva, obviously, like you can put a drop shadow on it, outline, background, you can curve it, and you can change the curve. Thick, it's very cute, but it's not very thick to be visible. Ugh. Can also look at what it looks like if it's in all caps and all or not. Alright, I'm going to leave it at this for now, and then I will also change these to that. I'm going to work on making those more visible later. I should put my author name on here. I don't have too many different fonts, but I'm not sure that's the best one for that either. Let's see, I could potentially make it more visible, but overlay like that. What would that look like on here too? Why do I not like it as much on that? Ooh, no. Oh, you know what? Let's try changing this color to something more Christmassy. No, these are not necessarily all Christmas stories, but still. Yeah, I kind of like that basic idea. Some of these apps you can also do different effects with the text. So one I like is gradient. You can like move it around to change how the effect is, so that can be nice. You can do this effect in GIMP as well. Like, it can be easier in GIMP to do different text effects. Here you can see what I do is once I have something that I'm like, I kind of like this, but I want to play some more with changes, I will duplicate the whole thing and then make a little change. And so I will keep on duplicating. I'll end up with like 50 different versions. Okay, so my top priorities with these things are that the fonts are legible, that the whole thing looks coherent, and also that it has some depth to it, that it doesn't just look like flat things stuck on top of each other. Still have a lot of ways to go with this. I'm starting to really like this. Obviously, I'm liking how this looks with the sort of invitation sort of look to it. I think I'm going to try out some different images in the background. So I've only looked at photos. I'm going to take that out. And you saw that I look up things like light under graphics, and there's all these things that you can sort of put subtly behind the text to help make it more readable too. So let's try looking up New England winter, and I want to look at, yeah, graphics and not just photos this time. That is not what I thought I was going to get under graphics. For some reason, everything New England is always just fall. Come on, where's the snow? We have snow too, I swear. That would be nice if it were a creepy thing, but it's not. So this isn't one I tried on a previous iteration of this book cover. This one is pretty good, but like this looks too realistic. This doesn't look like cute, charming romance town USA, you know? It's too much of a city. It's alright. So like this kind of thing is what I was thinking. Need that if we had that. And this we might not need. We can also like play with transparency and the size. Yeah, see, that's not readable at all, but I could mess with also with the effects on here. So we could either do it as a white shadow. We could also do it as a white outline. Not readable, but that's pretty good. And now I think this invitation thing doesn't look as good. Like it looked pretty good on here, but if we do it this way, it does not. So yeah, this is like a very different option if I do it with the cartoon kind of look, but I feel like that matches the genre better. I like the brightness of the green, but it's not as legible. What would happen if I did that part in red now? That's pretty. Sounds like a watercolor. I could take it in a whole different direction. And let's put the option on this side. But I think I like like it better with the ones facing that way. Gosh, that was cute. I like that a lot. Alright, go back to that cloud thing we had. So I will probably set this aside and come back to it in a couple of days for fresh eyes, but as much as I was liking this concept, now it just looks terrible compared to some of these other ones, so that's how it goes. It's like, keep trying things, keep iterating until you get something that you look at it and go, yes, that looks professional, that looks like it belongs. And you can do things like Googling text effects for fantasy covers and things like that, and then look up how to do that text effect in Canva or in GIMP or something along those lines. And then eventually one of your designs just sings to you and says, this is the one, after all these iterations. So I worked on it a little bit more last night, and then suddenly I had this, and I said, boom, I love this. This is the one. All of these different ideas and iterations and testing, and so it does take a while sometimes, most times, but I enjoy the process. It is a nice break for my brain from the different type of work of writing and that style of creativity. So I find it very relaxing to take a break from that and do something very visual instead. So I am in love with this one. It is perfect for what I wanted. So that is good. That is done. So let's do another one. I have a challenging one to design. I am writing a sequel to Treasure Island. I don't know why. I don't think this has been done before, and I can't figure out why. Not that I've done a whole lot of research about whether it has been done, but it doesn't matter. I love Treasure Island. It's my favorite book of all time, and I've always wanted to write a sequel because it ends in a really way that is open for another story. And I've wanted to tell the story of Long John Silver meeting up with his wife after the treasure is found. That, you know, he had this plan that his wife was selling their assets in Bristol in England so that they could meet up together once he had this treasure, but he doesn't end up with as much treasure as he expects. So I want to play with that. I want to tell a story about that. So first, I decided to make a special edition of Treasure Island itself as a public domain work. I can annotate it and illustrate it and make the copy of my frickin' dreams. So I've been working on that, and I designed a cover for that. So let me show you that one and many iterations. This was my original concept for the holiday stories, so like what I have now, much better. Okay, so here are the iterations that I was working on for doing a special edition of the original Treasure Island, and I think I'm going with this one. So then I thought, playing around with that same kind of, these are dreadful, so just, I know they're dreadful, but playing around with that same kind of format and balance and what it looks like for the sequel. And but then I started thinking, like, the genre of the sequel is not the same. So the original Treasure Island is a coming of age adventure, kind of, I would say young adult. I mean, I read it when I was 8. It's sort of marketed towards younger children, but with like the language and the death and whatnot, I would call it more young adult. But anyway, regardless, the story that I want to tell is Long John Silver's love story with his wife, which would be more of like epic adventure romance. And that is going to need a different style of cover. So I think I'm going to look at some of the romantasy covers for inspiration, maybe like a big background picture with the title text over the top of it in like a big, beautiful, beveled kind of font with lots of like movement and gradation in it. You'll see what I mean. So I'm going to work on that concept and see what it looks like. And you can see a different style of cover that I come up with based on the style of the book in question. Okay, so I've been working on this concept of the more romantasy style cover, and basically it's the same process of just test things and iterate hundreds and hundreds of times, making tiny changes. And I do spend hours doing this. I think it's really worth it to get an awesome book cover. When it sings, when it hits just right, it sells itself in a way. So really, really, it's worth taking a lot of time to do this. So I have been playing around with a bunch of them that I knew were not working. So now I'm just sort of playing around with these. So you can see this concept. I don't know if I want to put the people on or if I want to have the ship, but the concept of this big flowery text that has a lot of dynamic brightness to it, like metallic and shining, like romantasy covers have. And of course I was like, oh well, his name is Silver, so it has to be a silver color. So the first thing that I did to achieve that effect is in GIMP. I downloaded I think I already deleted it, but I downloaded a page of just a silver effect on Canva. So something like that. I just downloaded a full page of that, and then I came over to my GIMP. Now this, as I said, is a Photoshop-like product. It is free, it's open source, it's a little challenging to learn how to use and figure out what all the buttons are. I don't use it as much these days because Canva can do a lot of what I want, but there are just some things that Canva is not quite up to doing. So let's see if I still have it. Actually, I'll have to start here because these are all different fonts. So I was playing around with different fonts and I decided that I didn't want it to be all, you know, this fonts are super important, like super, super important to the look, right? So I was like, I really like this script, but I don't know that I want the whole thing to be script. And so what I ended up doing was putting the J and then adding each letter, you know, like I did like that. And then this one, which text did I use for this one? No, that was one of the ones I was considering. Definitely not. Okay, yeah, this one, Grand Baron Regular. So I'm looking for fonts that have a piratey sort of old-fashioned feel to them. So I did that as two separate things. And I eventually actually did each letter individually to really light it up exactly how I wanted. And so what I'm going to do now is download this, just that page with a transparent background. I am going to go over to GIMP and open it here. Came up automatically at scaling. You don't need to scale. So, okay, now I am going to also upload the plain silver background. Let's see if I have that in my downloads or if I cleaned it up. No, I still have them. So I had 3 different options here. So pull in this one. Then that becomes its own layer. Okay. Now, okay, stop. That's why, because I have it on that. See if I remember how to do this or if I have to look it up again. But it was add a layer mask, white full opacity. And then, or no, I think I had to select alpha to selection first, right? And then I come over here, copy this, paste it to the layer mask, anchor floating layer, and then, yeah, and take the visibility off that, and there we go. Now we have used that texture on the font. This was only the first step. So I'm going to take the background off, and this was an issue because once I took the background off, it no longer quite worked. It needed the white, but I don't have the same fonts in GIMP. So what I'm going to do is put white behind it. So I'm going to export this as a PNG again. I just looked up how to do this, you know, how to make a metallic effect in GIMP, and got instructions. So now I have this exact thing, so I'm going to change the background color here just so I can get a sense for it, and change this to white, and then I will upload what I just got, and it is on desktop. I'm gonna bring it to the front. So right now it doesn't look very silverly because it doesn't have the white behind it to really make it look silver. So that's why I've done this as white, and then I'm going to make it the same size and lay it right over the top. Pretty close. So once I had this, I felt like this still doesn't really look like metal, and it doesn't look dynamic enough. So I am going to make 2 more copies of this. I will group this and make copies. So the first copy is for putting this right directly on top of as much as possible, and I can zoom in to make sure. And if you hold down the control, at least on my Mac, it makes it so the guidelines kind of disappear so you can get more accurate. Doesn't matter too much because I am going to be putting a white layer drop shadow behind it. Okay, there we go. And then I can group those if I move this out of the way and go like that. So now I don't have to worry about that part. Now I am taking this white and I'm changing this one to black. This is something I just discovered that worked after I played with it a ton. So that is going to go backwards, and then I'll give it a pretty dramatic drop of shadow if I remember correctly from what I did before. And then also this one as a drop shadow. The black on top of the white worked well. Alright, so this gives it a lot more dynamic shape, and it's got both a little hint of white and a little hint of black behind it. And I fiddled around with that, and I eventually got it to look I think, very metallic. You know, this effect of it looking like really stamped out came from fiddling with the drop shadows, and you can kind of see it on here where it's like black and then white slivers. So let me see if I can recreate that kind of effect, and then I did it on my name too. So let's see, back down here. A little bit more like it's been, like, you know, stamped out of metal. Yeah, passable. Okay, final step is adding shine. So now I'm going to group all this together so that I don't mess up as I'm moving. I'm going to go to elements and look up shine or light, and it's really hard to see them because they are white, but let's see, I think this one was one that I did. So I'm going to make this much smaller. And take some of the transparency off. Yeah, and then I feel like if I were more of an artist, I would know like where the light sources are to put the gleamingness, but like put them behind a lot of the loops. And then I can like mix it up too with a little bit of change of size and opacity. So there. Now I have something that looks metallic. Ooh. So after all of that work, I then had to figure out how I wanted to arrange all the different elements of the title, and it took me a long time to arrive at this. I had it this way first for a long time, but then I liked this better, and the figuring out how to put the and his, and yeah, it's been quite a process, but I am getting closer to what I want. I really like how this part of the W looks. The shine on it right there, and it looks so metallic. I'm like, yes, that one part is like, whew. I also feel like the and his here looks super metallic. So then I was like doing different things in the background to figure out, do I want people? Do I want like a sailing ship? Do I want an ocean? So we shall see where I end up with it. Still going. I spent like half of yesterday working on this. I am really liking this one. It has kind of an old school look to it too. And this one in terms of ones with people on the cover. I like these ones too. So yeah, I'm gonna keep working at this until one just snaps into place and says, yes, that is the one. But that gives you an idea of where I'm working with both GIMP and Canva to create some of these effects. Also on some of these, I put like a darker shadow element from Canva behind it to make it pop even more. So always looking at ways to make it eye-catching and readable and like have the right feel to it, and like all these different kinds of things. That is what I've got for you in terms of hopefully making your covers more professional looking and more enticing. I did play around with making promo videos using the cover that we did the other day, and it feels like even just this cover on a white page, and I'm just like, it speaks for itself. It hums. It's gorgeous. I love it, and I think people will see it and go, okay, I know exactly what that is. That's cozy, Christmassy stories. Once you have a cover that really nails what you want, then you can really make very simple promo graphics and still get a result, because the cover is doing so much of that work for you. So yeah, I hope that that is helpful, and I look forward to any questions that you have.